they would definitely be in the red if they just threw away the whole cow just because it had a little cancer, right? So they just cut it out. Their inspectors aren't that great, and they miss most of the tumors. So they just kick the whole thing in there and grind it up. What you're eating oftentimes does contain some amount of cancerous tumor. Thank you for coming. We are going to be discussing fake meats tonight. And, like the edible kind. Well, they might not be edible. They're an abomination? I don't know. They're lab-grown meats. We're going to start with that and see where it takes us. Day was cool today. And, yeah. What else can I say? Lab-grown meats are meats that grow in a lab and not like on a cow or some shit like that. A lot of people won't eat them, and I completely understand that because it's kind of seems like you're spitting in God's face when you do that. Like, create flesh from protein synthesis. I don't know how they do it, but we're going to learn how they do it. And, yeah, it's 3D printed, right? So they put the meat goo into the reservoir, and then they just draw you a steak. And why can't you make it other shapes? Other fun shapes like a dinosaur or a boot. The boot is very popular. You know, this is actually not too far off from what McDonald's already does with their chicken tenders, which I refuse to eat, right? And if you eat them, that's fine. I just don't, they don't agree with me anymore. I used to eat them as a kid. I'm an adult now, so I just don't eat them. But my kid eats them occasionally, very occasionally. But they put their meat into a meat funnel. What do you call a meat decorating bag? You know, like they use for cakes, right? And they draw happy birthday in meat. Somebody's got to try that. Somebody has to try that. But they still use meat. McDonald's still, mostly their chicken nuggets are made out of chicken. Whether it be beaks or eyes or whatever. But it is still mostly chicken. I think the rest of it is like sawdust or something. There's a legal amount of sawdust they can put in your food, and it's a lot higher than you'd expect. Like a lot higher. Like so, like a lot of foods you eat have like a large amount of sawdust in them, and that's not like, it's not bad to eat sawdust. If anything, it's like fiber and it'll help you poop and shit. But, you know, no one really expects they're eating trees. And the vegans, I don't even know if they're allowed to eat trees. I don't know. Anyways, let's go ahead and hop on over and see what this is gonna be about.
There she is. Tastes like a chicken nugget.
In Jamaica,
Cheers.
we feed the dogs chicken back.
That's really good.
Chicken back? What is chicken back? Are you Jamaican?
Tastes like a burger.
My mind is blown right now. Like the texture
What
is
is chicken
perfect.
back?
The juiciness is there. Like it's chicken. It's chicken. The
not chicken.
stringiness, it's pulling apart.
It's not chicken. It's not chicken. It doesn't look like chicken. That does not look like fucking chicken to me. That looks like a steel wool that's been made soft. I don't know. It looks like a loofah you have in your shower.
It totally mimics the real thing.
Hey, for
And I
Mr.
would buy this.
Footbig.
I would eat this.
We're
I'm
talking
eating it
fake
now.
meats.
This is a thumbs up from me.
Chicken, 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 and chicken.
This is chicken, but not as we know it.
This chicken, though, is a little bit different. It was grown in a lab.
Cultured meat.
I mean, that chicken did not look that bad, right? But they have all types of trickery going on. What my main concern about this is this gonna make you sick somehow? Is this gonna change your genetics? Is this some sort of weird religious custom that they have to feed you crickets and bugs as part of their demonic ritual or something like that? Because I would believe that.
A lab-grown chicken nuggets.
Chicken grown in a lab.
U.S. regulators have approved the sale.
You have to forgive me. I might be coming down with a head cold or something, so just bear with me on that.
Of
guys.
chicken made from animal cells.
Lab-made animal protein
cells.
from
What isn't like an animal cells? So not meat, but animal cells. Okay, what do you consider that? Is that not meat? Is that blood? Closer to blood for you? I don't know.
the company's Good Meat and Upside Foods is now clear for production and sale in the U.S.
Cultured meat, lab-grown meat, clean meat is identical to conventional meat at the cellular level.
Identical at the cellular level is an interesting way to put it. I guess I don't have anything to
Grown in
say
a
about
lab.
that. That's
This
just
lab-grown meat is not just a plant-based alternative like the Impossible Burger.
The cultivated meat will be grown in steel tanks using cells from a living animal, fertilized egg, or special band of storage.
we're eating chicken jizz. That's what it's mainly. This meat is made out of animal issue, or some people call it semen, right? We're eating just gallons of chicken semen, and they're calling it meat. I don't know. I don't
Stored cells.
Without environmental destruction, without diseases, without animal suffering.
We make meat without killing a cow.
You don't have to kill a chicken to eat chicken.
Okay.
Why?
So Kitty says literal chicken back after you butcher a chicken, and all you have left is the chicken back. Is that like the back of the chicken? Or is it a band called Chicken Back? Sorry, that was stupid, but I don't care. The back of the chicken, I guess. I don't know. I don't butcher chickens. I am planning to, though. When I get some chickens out on my property, I'm going to be butchering some chickens. I'm going to be butchering them, and I'm going to be eating them. Then I'm going to have eggs and stuff. I hear it's a huge pain in the ass. Because my father-in-law had chickens, and he paid quite a bit, and he no longer does it. But I don't know. I want to start homesteading more, so I don't have to eat fucking chicken cum or whatever they're putting into this fake meat, solution, right? Because it's a solution that they make into something that looks like meat.
Why are people making it?
Climate change.
It's better for the environment.
The environment.
It seems as though that the mission statement behind
where
all
all
of
the
this
good
is,
jokes are.
hey, we're going to give
Kitty.
you the taste of meat, but it's better for you and it's better for the planet.
See, that's the fucking thing. It's better for you. So now you're making health decisions on my behalf. Again, the government is making health decisions for us. Again, it's never worked out in the past. It's never been for our benefit. This is probably just another way for them to introduce an artificial famine. Because that's what they've done plenty of times before. Stalin starved a bunch of people out. The China guy did, whatever his name is. What was his name? Mao? Chairman Mao? He starved a bunch of people out. It's just what you do. It's the easiest way to cull your population is through starvation. And what has been going on the last couple of years or so, there's been disruptions in the food supply. There's been food factories that have gone up in flames for no reason. There's been like a few of them have just gone up in flames for no reason. They maybe say it's a cyber attack or something, but they don't really look too much into it. All types of shortages are coming down the line. I think in the next year, 2024 might be bad. Maybe the winter. I don't know. I don't want to make predictions like that because I don't know. But I think it will get bad. I think they are probably trying to starve us out, and you should probably get a garden and a rifle. A garden is, helpful. Depending on where you live, just like potatoes or corn, pretty easy to grow, and it gives you a lot of food. And just a gun. You should have a gun anyway. I mean, come on. Get a gun.
Lab-grown meat just got approved in the U.S., and it is a giant scam. They say that lab-grown meat is going to be cleaner, safer, and better for you than regular meat. They say that eating this will save the environment.
No. You don't shoot the crops. You tend the crops. You shoot the animals. You shoot the animals. Well, if you can hunt around where you are. If you're in the city, I think you're just kind of boned. Right? Because there's not much you can do besides leaving the city. And they're not going to let you do that. They're just not going to let you do that. They want you inside the city so they can shoot you more effectively. I'm just saying this is what happens in, history. This just seems how it plays out. Right? Eventually they think there's too many of us. They want to thin us out a little. Maybe. I don't know.
We conducted a study, and it shows that there's a risk that cultured meat actually might be worse for the environment in some situations than animal agriculture.
That it will save animals from getting slaughtered.
But the part that seems to be overlooked a lot
potatoes
is that
grow
step
in
where they feed the cells.
Yeah, I'm putting in some sweet potatoes because down here in Florida, you can grow sweet potatoes really easily. So, and they have more nutritional value than typical potatoes, and they're easy to grow. They're potatoes. Right? The Irish lived off of potatoes for centuries. Like, before the potato came to Europe, what did the Irish live off of? Like wheat and stuff? I knew it was a huge problem that the English kept coming over and burning down their crops, and that's why the potato was such a godsend for the Irish. Because you can't just burn down potato crops. Because the potato is still under the soil. And now they worship the potato up there.
The things animals need to grow. And traditionally, they have done that.
Sweet potatoes are for gays? You're gay. That's all I have.
Something called FBS, or fetal
Why do you say sweet potatoes are for gays? Sweet potatoes are good.
Bovine serum. It is derived from the blood drawn from a bovine fetus.
I bought a potato growing sack.
There are literally people who are at slaughterhouses where their job is when a pregnant cow comes in to be.
What's a potato growing sack? Is it like, I've seen potatoes grown in buckets, and there's like a special way of lifting it up so you get more potatoes out of it. But send me a link to the potato sack. And not your nut sack either. Don't be like...
Slaughtered. They can be there to collect the blood from the unborn cow fetus by sticking a needle into the heart of the...
Mr. Footpig says 90% of the potatoes were exported through tax. The famine was created on purpose. Yeah, the English intentionally starved out the Irish, and that's what they do. They put the food supply under tons of bureaucracy where you have to register your home garden and shit. They really tried to take control so they can close it down. That's the only reason why they would want to take control of a food supply. And they already have. No, you should have a garden and you should not tell anybody about it. I don't actually have a garden. And neither do you. Oh, fuck. Wrong button.
Here she is. Tastes like a chicken nugget.
Made from animal cells.
Lab-made animal protein from the company's Good Meat and Upside Foods is now clear for production and sale in the U.S.
Cultured meat, lab-grown meat,
Yeah, so-
clean meat is identical to...
Yeah, so that's the same thing as like the bucket method. It's just with a potato sack. That's cool.
Conventional meat at the cellular level, just grown in a lab. This lab-grown meat is not just a plant-based alternative like the Impossible Burger.
The cultivated meat will be grown in...
Karen said, sent me a flash and said, my garden and guns sank in a boating accident. Don't you hate it when you take your garden on a boating trip and then there's a terrible boating accident and then your tomatoes sink to the bottom of the lake? That's happened to me so many times. I mean, how would you hide a garden? They'd walk on your property and be like, is that it? No, that's not it.
In steel tanks using cells from a living animal, fertilized egg, or special band of stored cells.
Without environmental destruction, without diseases, without animal suffering.
We make meat without killing a cow.
You don't have to kill a chicken to eat.
Oh, these are cool. Here, hold on. I'll show you guys. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, here we go. So they're like, interesting. Wow. You know, I'm gonna get a few of these. I'm gonna get a bunch actually. Soil. Super easy. Super easy. I'm gonna get those. Thank you for telling me. Wait, how much are they? $14? Absolutely.
Chicken.
Why are people making it?
Hey, Thought, I'm sorry I didn't stay on your stream longer last night. I just have a very specific bedtime, and I just fell asleep. Yeah, sorry about that. I tried to hang on longer, but if I don't go to sleep, it's just like, there's just no way I can't. I can't stay up. Oh, and she gave me $2. Thank you. Hey, this is how they make antibodies for vaccines and cancer drugs, except with chopped up fetuses and independent women. Okay, so they make vaccines the same way they make burgers or fake steaks, or because I wonder if they're connected in some weird way, like the same. Like, can you get inoculated from a steak that you're eating, like a fake steak? Can you get vaccinated from a food supply, which it sounds like it's possible, right? Especially with all the shit that's possible these days. They could inoculate our food supply, and that would completely take away any vaccine hesitancy or rights that people have. I bet they're probably trying. Mr. Footbig with $10. Thanks for the laughs and congrats on the kids. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're 9 weeks in, and it's a ball. It's fun. Thank you for the $10, dude. Oh yeah, congratulations on the baby. Yeah.
Climate change, better for the environment.
It seems as though that the mission statement behind all of this is, hey, we're going to give you the taste of meat, but it's better for you and it's better for the planet.
Lab-grown meat just got approved in the US, and it is a giant scam. They say that lab-grown meat is gonna be cleaner, safer, and...
Oh, by the way, Thought. Here. So I made this because you were talking about my the merch shop, and tell me if you think it is good or if you like it. Here, I'll put the link in the chat. If anybody else wants to buy the shirt, please be my guest. But I'm out here learning. So if you buy the shirt, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for the donations and everything too, guys. And just being here. So I appreciate you guys.
And better for you than regular meat. They say that eating this will save the environment.
We conducted a study, and it shows that there's a risk that cultured meat actually might be worse for the environment in some situations than...
No shit. It's like those Teslas, those electric cars that are, they're supposed to be really good for the environment, but then they rip up land in Gabon mining for, what is it? Lithium, or not boron. fucking cobalt. And then you know what? That shit, a lot of those batteries can't be recycled too. So they just throw them in a field somewhere. China's been doing that a lot. Those little easy go scooters you rent in the city sometimes, they just throw those into a big pile somewhere, and that's it. That's where they end up. It's like a graveyard. You know, what is a car that runs on gas? Steel? Metal? Yeah, that's all you have to do. I'm not saying one's better for the environment or the other, but I'm just saying that people sell it being cleaner for the environment when it actually is in no way cleaner.
Animal agriculture.
That it will save animals from getting slaughtered.
But the part that seems to be overlooked a lot is that step where they feed the cells the things animals need to grow. And traditionally, they have done that.
Feed the cells. Okay, so you're feeding the cells what? More meat? Is that what it is? Or is it like sugar water or something? I don't know. Do you know what they feed cells?
Yes, or fetal bovine serum. It is
horrible. So they so they feed it unborn calves. That's, you know what? I bet you anything. Some of these are using fetal cells from like Planned Parenthood. Some of these steaks are using fetal cells from Planned Parenthood. I know I'm going to hear that one day. I know I'm going to hear that. They say it's bovine fetal cells now, but eventually they're going to be like, hey, we have enough of these human fetal cells to start feeding other people a la Soylent Green. If you've ever seen that movie, Soylent Green, it's where they eat people. There, I saved you 3 hours.
Derived from the blood drawn from a bovine fetus at slaughterhouses. There are literally people who are at slaughterhouses where their job is when a pregnant cow comes in to be slaughtered, they can be there to collect the blood from the unborn cow fetus by sticking a needle into the heart of the fetus after it is removed from their mother.
Okay, so these are fueled by abortions. I don't know how I feel about this. No, I know how I feel like about this. This is terrible. This is an abomination. Somehow the method of growing lab-grown meat is less ethical than just shooting the thing in the head. Right? Because that's all the cow has a good life up until then. And you just, well, some cows. And then you just blow its brains out and it's in heaven and then there's no problems, right? Now you're sticking needles into pregnant cows and harvesting their sweet fetal blood. I don't know. It seems worse to me. It seems worse.
That it's just as healthy as normal meat. But the reality couldn't be further from the truth.
So you grew this chicken in these tanks behind us.
Yes.
Without ever slaughtering a chicken.
You could ask me that 1,000 times.
Okay,
and
all right. Obedience says, I used to work for a company that made pills for farm animals. They would impregnate a cow, horse, etc., let it carry to term, abort the infant, and then take the antibody, mother's milk, and powder it to put into so you're feeding the cows other cows and the pigs other pigs and stuff. It's for that double chicken flavor, right? That's how they make the KFC Double Down. They feed one chicken, the weaker chickens, right? And then it concentrates the chicken goodness into the body. And the egg has like layers, like a jawbreaker too. You bite into it and it cracks all the way down. Amazing what they can do with science.
Answer is yes.
That's horrible, Obedience.
Yes.
Lab-grown meat is chock full of antibiotics, cancer cells, and a bunch of other terrible things they don't want you to know about. But why would they tell the truth when there's billions of dollars flowing into this arena?
President Biden signed in.
Yeah, okay, so President Biden signed in. Now we have to eat cow. I don't even know what to call it. Fake cow. Fake steak. I can't wait to hear what this says. King of All Yetis said vaccines use mutated immortal aborted fetal cells. How do they make them immortal? Because I bet you, like, I know Thought disagrees with me on this, but I think they have a cure for cancer. And I also think they have a cure for aging, because aging is just another disease that humans get. Right? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I know Thought's going to fucking light up my chat for this, but let me talk. I think they also have the cure for aging, and they're just waiting to clear the planet of the undesirables before they release it. So there's not too many people running around. I mean, I get it.
An executive order this year requiring federal agencies to support cultivating alternative food sources.
And when there's billions upon billions more to be made. So soon, you're going to be hearing more and more about lab-grown.
They killed the guy who cured AIDS and cancer. Yeah, they put a lot of money into these diseases, right? Like, this is a work in progress that's going on for decades. Because there's such a huge industry behind it. The cancer industry is $1 trillion industry. If some guy just invents the cure for cancer in his like basement or something like that and starts telling people about it, that's going to be a huge problem. The GDP of the country relies on cancer. So if more people have cancer in the United States, that means the country is making more money. And that means we can borrow more money. Because apparently 33 trillion or something isn't enough. Prions are an immortal cell? Yeah, prions aren't alive, technically. I think they're just... Yeah, they're just like little machines. From what I know about diseases from playing Pandemic. You remember that game? The phone game where you try to infect the whole world? That's where the majority of my pandemic knowledge comes from.
Meat. These companies are going to be playing every trick in the book to convince you that it's better than the real thing. But just like every other artificial food that has been concocted over the past century, if you fall for it, you're going to end up sicker and more malnourished than ever.
Wow, she's got wings. She's been drinking Red Bulls.
Welcome to Evil Food Supply, and this is the great lab-grown meat scam.
We're running out of time. Nature cannot pay that price anymore.
Enough of treating nature like a toilet.
Thumpire said, aren't crocodiles/alligators kind of immortal? They keep growing and getting older until they get too big for the environment to sustain them. Lobsters, too. Lobsters keep growing until they can't manage the energy to actually molt again. So, I think they actually genetically engineered a lobster not to have a shell. And apparently it'll live forever. I'm sure there's limits to that, though. I don't think there's going to be, like, a 60-foot lobster. But who knows what the future tells. The future could be a weird place with 60-foot lobsters and kangaroo rats and shit like that.
Now, the ultra-wealthy backers of these companies, do you think they're sitting down and eating this lab-grown chicken?
Sharks don't get cancer either. D-ball money. And they think it might be because they don't have bones, right? So they don't have like the marrow inside the bone to make blood. I don't even know how they make blood, but they think maybe that's it. I have no idea.
Themselves? No! The super rich don't consume the same slop they push on us, just like they don't put their money in the same things they tell us commoners to. For example, they tell us to...
Critical Thought says, no, clones need consistent cultures to stay viable, so it is a machine that continues. If you are interested, Critical Thought 1pm.me, I wrote an essay. So everyone hit that. So she's going to be passing
Just put your money in the S&P 500, while they happily put their money into investments that we don't have access to. And one of those exclusive
Is that what you mean by essay? Like a Mexican guy?
Investments is fine art. See, fine art is very special. It's a market that tends to be less impacted by recent events. Like in 2022, while there was soaring inflation and banking collapses, the art market had its best auction year ever. And this year, the art market has now passed its pre-pandemic highs. This has allowed today's sponsor, Masterworks, the art investing platform, to continue paying out to every...
No ads. Okay, so Masterworks, this kind of stuff is all money laundering. 100%. 100% money laundering. They just have one of their artist buddies paint them a painting. They get it appraised by another buddy, and they're like, their other buddy's like, oh, it's like $20 million, dude. And then they donate it right off $20 million, and then that's good. That's money laundering. 100%.
Able to get in on this painting without needing millions of dollars. This puts Masterworks' track record at 14 exits, netting us returns like 10, 13, and even 32%. With a track record like that spanning multiple years, it's no wonder Masterworks offerings can sell out in days, even hours. But you'll get priority access for your new account when you use our link in the video description below. So scroll down.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a scam. This, it's money laundering.
Lab-grown meat is a food manufacturer's dream. Think about it.
Why don't you, I mean, if you're gonna launder money, why don't you just open a nail place or like sell hot dogs, right? Like I get a hot dog stand, put it right outside my door, and just say it sold 1,000 hot dogs that day, even though there's nobody that walks by my house. It would work. Maybe not. It probably wouldn't work. I'm not trying to launder money.
Put yourself in the shoes of a big food company like Tyson, for example. Raising chickens is hard. You need a ton of real estate. You gotta feed the chickens. You gotta employ a bunch of laborers to care for the chickens. Oftentimes, you end up accidentally stepping on your chicks and killing your inventory.
Yep.
And of course, you're constantly getting smeared by animal rights activists for animal abuse. Don't worry, our next video is on America's love affair with...
Priz, did you catch what they actually make the lab-grown meat out of? It was fetal tissue. So instead of eating like an adult chicken or an adult cow or something like that, they would draw like the stem cells out of the heart of an unborn calf, I assume in some satanic ritual, and then they would grow that into just this. It's an abomination. I mean, it's not meat. They say it has the same chemical structure, chemistry, whatever. I can't imagine it has the same consistency or texture or anything like that, or flavor. But who knows? I don't know. I haven't tried it. Just go with a bean burger or something. Why do you have to get all sciencey about it? Oh, because normal people won't eat bean burgers and shit. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat your abortion burger.
Chicken meat. So make sure you subscribe. But just imagine if you could print succulent chicken breasts on demand in a lab. Your costs would go way down. In fact, your costs would eventually go to near zero. Instead of having to wait 6 to 8 weeks for a chicken to fully mature,
we're all going to be eating it soon. And it's going to be this or it's going to be nothing. That's why you should start gardening now. And sweet potatoes are not gay, especially if I don't have to eat like abortion stew or whatever. Yeah, start a garden. It's not that hard. I mean, corn is literally grass. You can grow grass.
You could have chicken meat just like that. And guess what?
Thanks,
you will
Bill
never
Gates.
have to worry
Exactly.
about...
Thanks, Bill Gates. Thanks, Monsanto. All those people who have complete control of the food supply, go fuck yourself. Bill Gates has like the most farmland of any dude in the United States. He's got tons of it. Why? You build computer stuff. Or you did before you got into the whole genocide game, which you're killing it, dude. No pun intended.
pesky animal abuse accusations ever again. So of course big food giants like Cargill and Tyson are funding lab-grown meat. It would be a dream come true. And if lab-grown meat ends up being completely devoid of nutrients, or if it's maybe even toxic and dangerous to humans, well. Just like seed oils, the food pyramid, and every—
This is the thing. This is the thing. The FDA is a useless organization because they've let plenty of things through that kill people all the time, immediately. And they can only do short-term studies. They can't do like 35-year longitudinal studies over like generations and see how a certain product affects somebody. And a lot of these things like food coloring, vaccines, something else, they all have long-term effects, right? That take decades to manifest. But they probably already know that on some level.
other artificial food that's come onto the scene over the last century, the masses will
you
blindly—
You can't trust anything. You can't trust restaurants. You can't trust even going to McDonald's because they're going to start putting stuff into the meat that they don't necessarily have to tell you about. They're not going to put it on their commercials, or if they do, they're going to spin it and be just completely dishonest about it. Right? But they're going to force us to eat this stuff, especially if the profit margin is so much larger. This guy's right. Raising cattle is expensive, and the profit margins for raising cattle, raising pigs and stuff, it's razor thin. It's razor thin. So they need to grow thousands of them and then sell. If anything bad happens, like a disease or something like that, they're automatically in the red. So I can see why they would want to do this, because it makes their business more sturdy. And the meat industry is $1 trillion industry, right? I mean, everybody eats meat except for like weirdos and stuff. But it makes a lot of money, but it's not the easiest thing to do.
buy into it, and no one will realize that they—
Also, there's, ranch hands and people that work in slaughterhouses and stuff. There's a lot of humans involved in that too. If you get rid of those by just having a robot arm that's like drawing, chicken tenders, that's another thing you don't have to worry about. That's a thing you can buy once and then never have to pay again. Never worry about like unions or something like that. Don't have to worry about them getting hurt on the job. And you don't have to pay them $35-40 an hour. Right? That's why the people who worked at McDonald's basically priced themselves out of the game. They're all like, all right, we can't pay you $18 an hour. So we're just going to do this kiosk and turn this entire building into a large vending machine. We'll have one guy there, the manager, and that's it. Maybe another guy to open bags. But besides that, that's basically all they need. And it'll make a lot of money. And that's exactly where every McDonald's is heading to. Every food chain. It's just like going to the grocery store and I have to fucking check out my own food. I hate that. Yeah, they have the ones with the things, with the people, but there's like 2 of them maybe. I don't want to work at the grocery store. I want you to do this for me. And then they're like, oh, well, if you do it this way, you save money. I don't want to. I would rather not save money. I would rather have you bag my groceries than save money. Do that. Do I have that option? I do for now, but not always.
been duped until decades later. And so, big food conglomerates and investors have thrown a ludicrous amount of money at lab-grown meat companies. Good Meat and Upside Foods.
You should make them bag your stuff, Karen. Absolutely.
The 2 companies that just got approved in the US.
That's their job.
Just got $267 million and $598 million respectively in funding.
You want the traditional grocery store experience, like where you walk up to like the dry goods clerk and you hand him your list and he'll be like, just a minute, and he'll bring you stuff. That's how they used to do it, right? What you mean by traditional? I think you mean like 1980s, 90s, 2000s, or even before that, like 100 years.
While Eat Just has gotten $464 million in funding. That's right. These three companies already have well over $1 billion between them, and they're gonna do whatever it takes to get you to shove their artificial meat concoction down your throat.
Look at the guys. Okay, all right. This is a picture that speaks a million words. Look at this. Look at this dude on the right. Look at this dude on the left. Is there anything you might notice about these people? They look like the Try Guys from BuzzFeed. Why always with this like neck? And he's got a little neck. These people have no testosterone in their system. And maybe it's from soy. Maybe it's from, I don't know anymore. I don't know. Male testosterone levels have been dropping for like the last 30 years, and it's a serious problem. But I think they know that it has, and they're not doing anything to stop it because they don't want testosterone in society, because testosterone is what overthrows societies, and they want to maintain control, right? So, control. So they want to keep you a little bitch. A little pansy ass. Look at that guy. I mean, maybe he has a girlfriend, but she cheats on him with black dudes. And, you know, she probably has like 500 other boyfriends. Have you seen those polyamory shows where like it's like one ugly chick and her 4 super ugly boyfriends? Degenerates. Absolute degenerates. And then she's pregnant. Oh, but she doesn't know by who. Fucking awful. That's awful. That kid is not going to have a normal existence. He's going to be just as weird. Admittedly, he didn't start out with the best genetics in the first place, because it's that Landwell and one of her, 100-pound simps that follows her around. The kid was screwed from the get-go, but, it's from eating cum. That's how you get to be such like one of those guys. You eat gallons and gallons of cum. It's like, you ever go to the Costco and they have the ketchup dispenser that like really shoots it out. It's that, but it's full of cum, and it just shoots it right in their ass. I know, it's gross. I'm sorry. I'll do what I want with my cum, Karen. If I want to put my cum in jars, I will do that. All right. And I will have many of them, and they will line the walls. And I'll be like, oh, I remember this one. It was wintertime, and the sky was a dark gray. I was feeling kind of ill that day, so I had chicken noodle soup. And this is the nut from that. Yeah, right? Like a little memory wall. Or you know what would be great? Is I could fill a time capsule full of cum. And then, like, in 50 years, I'll dig it up, and I'll be like, yeah, it's still cum. It's still cum.
Welcome to the Meat Lab.
You can meat in here.
Yes.
But I don't see any animals, and I don't see any animal parts.
Well, that's the trick, right? These are the tissue production cultivators. We invented this sort of technology.
I'm sorry. Kitty says, that is right. Don't come in jars, especially the jars you keep your cat in. I'm sorry? You keep your cat in a jar?
In order to grow tissue.
Is it safe? Absolutely.
That's weirder than coming in those jars, right? I'm just doing the normal come into jars, right? I got all these baby food jars that I just need to use, and I'll just, write the date on the top, and then, I'll check the color. Ew.
To make a delectable lab-grown meat nugget,
you'll
need
have
a few
Not
very
anymore,
special
right?
ingredients.
You
Number
don't
one,
have a cat anymore because you came it to death. You drowned it in your cum jar.
Growth factors. Things like sugar, amino acids, vitamins, and trace elements to give the meat everything it needs to grow. And you'll, of course, extract these factors from the cheapest food imaginable, soy.
And so they're going to need things like soybean hydrosylate to provide amino acids. And where do we get soybean hydrosylate from? Well, you get it from soybeans. And how do you get soybeans? Well, you plant these giant monocrops. And what happens when you plant giant monocrops? Well, you decimate the whole ecosystem.
But the problem with soy is that it has more estrogen than any other bean in existence. No, seriously, 1 cup of soybeans has the equivalent amount of estrogen as 20,000 cups of chick.
That is a lot. I don't know how much estrogen a chickpea has, but 1 cup of soybeans is worth 20,000 cups of chickpeas. That's like, and people chug soy milk. Those guys with a collar on their shirt go to the Starbucks every day and get like a double soy latte, and it gives them more estrogen than they probably would have had in a lifetime back in the day, right? And they do that every day. And they're all like, why can't we grow facial hair? Or like, why haven't my nuts descended? Dude, you're poisoning yourself. And I'm not saying it's specifically soybeans. I'm not saying it's specifically soybeans, because I don't think if you avoid soy that you'll be good to go. Because other things, there's like bisphenol A's, BPA's, plastic that leaches into the water supply, in the food supply, and it actually mimics estrogen. So it does the same thing to your body that natural estrogen from like a chickpea would give you. Chickpeas have phytoestrogens, but, you know, it's the same shape of the molecule, and that's what matters. Yeah, so we're getting assaulted from all sides, and there's not a lot you can do about it. I mean,
if you don't know, estrogen is to females what testosterone is to males. Estrogen is what makes women women. But when estrogen levels become too high, especially in males, it can lead to a whole lot of problems like infertility, low testosterone, slow growth, shrinking muscle mass, and weight gain. So yep, let's shove it into our lab-grown meat. And once your delicious soy plasma is complete, you'll need to add in your animal cells. Because remember, the goal here is
so it's not meat, but it consists of living animal tissue. How is that different? How is that different? Because an animal doesn't die, I guess. But I mean, like, I feel like you're still eating meat. Just a much more unholy type of meat. I don't really see the difference. And especially if you're taking it from fetuses. You're having abortions and then growing the meat that would have grown on the calf that you aborted, that would have grown naturally on the calf that you aborted. And you're eating that. I don't see the difference between letting it grow up on a nice sunny field and then blowing its brains out or doing this macabre bullshit. I don't see the difference.
To grow edible meat from just a few animal cells. But you can't just use any old regular cells from a chicken or a cow or whatever. That's because regular cells from a piece of animal meat, for example, just simply don't grow fast enough. Regular animal cells only multiply a few dozen times. So yeah, you're never gonna get your lab-grown meat factory going with cells like that. You need a type of cell that will grow to infinity super fast. And you wanna know what cells multiply super fast? Cancer cells. Think about it. Tumors grow.
We're eating cow cancer. That's what they're trying to feed us. They're trying to feed us little tumors, right? I don't know what they taste like. I bet they're chewy, but cancer? Is that good? Is eating cancer good for you? Or does that give you cancer? Because I think that's a good way to get cancer.
Fast and get out of control, which is why cancer is so scary. But that also makes cancer cells the perfect catalyst for lab-grown meat. But obviously you're not gonna call them cancer cells because branding. Hello? Cancer has a bad ring to it. If people knew that the reason you can grow monstrous masses of meat so quickly was because you were using cancer cells, they would chuck their lab-grown meat right into the toilet. So you call them immortalized cells instead.
Who said that? Who said that? Somebody said that. So that's what it is. It's not an immortal cell. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I think I might be getting sick. But it's it's a cancer cell. It's not like a forever vampire cell that just lives. No, it's cancer. And cancer is hard to die. It's difficult to kill cancer, apparently.
Immortalized cells are defined as either tumorous cells that do not stop dividing or cells that have been artificially manipulated to proliferate indefinitely and can thus be cultured over several generations. These cells are immortal because they multiply infinitely, like a tumor. And immortalized cells sounds much better. And when the media questions you about these immortalized cells, you tell them that, hey, scientists have been using these for decades. It's old technology. And don't worry, cancerous animal cells are completely safe, even though there are actual laws against selling cancerous meat in the US because of how dangerous it is. In an article titled, "Are Things Like Cancerous Tumors Allowed by Meat Inspection?" by Michigan State University, cancerous lesions or tumors are not allowed to enter commerce or the food chain. If laboratory results indicate the presence of cancer within the carcass will be marked, US inspected, and condemned. Once a carcass is condemned, it is denatured and disposed of, so it cannot.
And I've heard them just not giving a shit about that. Like, I've seen pigs getting slaughtered, like, on YouTube and shit, where they find a tumor and they just cut it out and then just throw it in a big pile of tumors. And they just throw the rest of the pig in. Because, again, the profit margin on butchering, like, it's very thin. So they can't afford to lose an entire cow. And most of them have cancer. That's, like, a lot of them have cancer. So they would definitely be in the red if they just threw away the whole cow just because it had a little cancer, right? So they just cut it out. But, you know, their inspectors aren't that great, and they miss most of the tumors. So they just kick the whole thing in there and grind it up. And what you're eating oftentimes does contain some amount of cancerous tumor.
Enter the food chain. But lab-grown meat, you get a free pass. Even though the industry doesn't have the decades of data to prove that cultured meat products won't give you cancer. And when the media comes knocking on your door for answers, you just respond with no comment, avoiding the question.
Hey, does this cancer, eating this cancer, give me cancer? No comment. Okay, well then you can keep selling it. I think that's like an important question. But how do they do studies on that? Because it's going to take a long time to do that kind of study, and they don't have that kind of time. So they're just going to bribe the FDA like they always do, right? Because, okay, so the pharmaceutical companies basically pays for the FDA. And the pharmaceutical companies also control the food supply with companies like Monsanto. So everybody's in cahoots to make people as sick as possible. So the FDA is well paid for, and they're just going to wave it on by. It doesn't matter if they do a test and it comes out, yes, eating this stuff does give you cancer, because then that gets fed into the pharmaceutical area, the cancer industry. So it's just a money-making tornado. Everywhere you go, you're just making money, falling out of the fucking sky. And that's what cancer is. They've used cancer as an economic weapon. It's a gun to your head that they're gonna give you. They're gonna give you cancer, and if you don't pay them, they'll kill you. They'll probably kill you anyway.
Entirely. And while your lab-grown meat brews in your bioreactors, you'll need to dump in your final ingredient, antibiotics. Because guess what? This soup of cells does not have an immune system. Unlike a cow that has white blood cells and all the other good stuff to knock out viruses and bacteria, bioreactors are just pure stainless steel. So if you're not careful, your entire batch of lab-grown meat will get overgrown with diseases like Salmonella or E. coli.
These cell cultures don't really have an immune system. There's no surveillance for that. So they have also a high vulnerability to not only these cancer cells, but also to bacterial contamination.
Yeah, but you know what they're going to do? They're just going to douse it in bleach, and then that's good. And then they're going to replace the entire meat supply with this bleach-soaked cancer burger shit, and we're going to be forced to eat it. And then no one's going to remember what meat tastes like, except for the very high up, the very rich people. You're going to be paying like $300 for a steak at the grocery store. No one's going to be able to eat it. I mean, I'm going to spring for that. Because I'm just going to raise my own cow. My own living cow, and I'm not going to abort it and eat its fetus, all right? Because that's gross.
Viral contamination, fungal contamination. Most likely, you may have to require high levels of antibiotic concentrations to keep these things protected. You know, they want to try to do these in clean rooms, but reality is they're probably going to provide antibiotics, antifungals, antivirus.
So you got to dump in a ton of antibiotics. And these antibiotics are...
Karen, I'm going to be upping my deer and elk harvesting. Good. You should absolutely do that. Do you have like one of those deep freezers? You just get an elk and fill that bad boy with, fill the freezer with elk meat, and you're good. I don't hunt, but I would like to start. I don't know how. I have no idea how.
You guessed it, gonna go right into your stomach. So now that you have your lab-grown meat ready for consumption, now it's time to guilt trip the masses into buying it.
They watch your chicken with Dawn. Yeah, maybe they know something we don't. Washing chicken with Dawn it gets the cancer off. Maybe that's
Here's another great benefit to lab-grown meat. It's that just like oat milk and plant-based meat, lab-grown meat gives you the unique ability to tug on people's heartstrings. You can use nifty little marketing phrases like...
That is a serious issue, is advertising. I mean, I don't even know if it's an issue or like unethical, but advertisers do tug on people's heartstrings. The entire Democratic Party is built off of tugging on people's heartstrings, not like being, hey, this won't work, or like thinking. It's always about keeping kids in cages and, giving women the right to their bodies and shit like that. It has no basis in what is pragmatic, nothing that is going to work. Just things that'll make you feel good for voting for. And that is retarded. That's why people shouldn't vote. I don't think people should vote because people are self-interested and fucking stupid. So many stupid people. I'm not saying I'm a smart one. I'm probably one of the stupid ones too. But it's just, people are retarded. No way they should be able to lead themselves. No, and I don't think voting actually does anything anyway. I think they look at the votes and be like, whatever, and then just pick who they want to pick anyway. I'm sure it's like that. Because they're not going to let us. If it mattered, they wouldn't let us do it. If voting mattered, they would not let us do it.
You're making the world's kindest beef burger, or slaughter-free meat, or helping everyone take a bite out of a better future.
For me, when I get up in the morning, the driving principle for me is why cause any harm if you don't need to?
You'll also be able to...
but I'm going to give a bunch of people cancer. So, there you go. I'm not going to harm any of these cows, but I'm going to give basically everybody on the planet a time limit to live within 10 years. So how are you not doing harm? Especially when you have to use baby cow fetuses to grow your meat. How exactly are you not doing harm?
Shout from the rooftops that your lab-grown meat is way better for the environment than those disgusting farting cows.
What it doesn't have is all the greenhouse gas emissions. What it doesn't have is the elements that lead to increased probabilities of zoonotic disease. What it doesn't have...
I think we just heard that the zoonotic diseases are actually far more likely because that meat doesn't have an immune system. We heard that, right?
Is the real morality issues that we have with killing 67 billion chickens every single year.
The masses will blindly buy in.
67 billion? I wonder how many of those chickens we actually eat. Right? Because we're not eating 67 billion chickens a year. There's only like 7 billion people. Am I eating 11 chickens a year? Well, yeah, I guess that sounds about right.
Into it, when in reality, the amount of electricity to run your massive...
In fact, I'm probably eating more than that. I'm probably on like 40 chickens a year.
Mush factory is astronomical. One study found that cultured meat facilities produce more greenhouse gas emissions than traditional animal farms would over a 1,000-year period.
Who's surprised by that? I'm not. I was about to stop the video and be like, are you sure? Are you sure about the whole greenhouse gas emission thing? Because I bet they're going to come out with a thing that says, hey, guess what? That's completely not true. This whole this whole global warming thing, again, is just a psyop. It's just a psyop to control people's behavior. It's been going on for decades. I remember when I was a kid in elementary school, they said everything was going to be shit by now, and there's no way humans were going to survive. And we were children, right? And they were putting the fear of God in us, which is a problem, but I'm not going to start on my problems with the public education system now. Yeah, they're just using it to control people's behavior. I'm sure it's probably headed by China, because you know who doesn't give a shit about greenhouse gases is China. They don't give a shit. They're putting on coal plants faster than most people. I don't know, really fast. Okay, so they're probably spreading this narrative around the planet in like the West. So people are shutting down nuclear power plants, shutting down coal mines, shutting down basically most of our power. So that way, with their lots of power, just come in and just basically pick stuff up. We're not going to be able to mount a proper defense against the Chinese unless we have power. And they know.
And another said that lab-grown meat would produce 4 to 25 times more CO2 than regular cattle farming. We've all been conditioned by big food to think that farms and cattle are horrible for the environment, when in reality, when done correctly, animal farms act as a giant carbon sink that can suck up CO2. They can be carbon negative.
But there was a third-party life cycle analysis, full life cycle, so they looked at the whole process, not just methane emissions from cows burping, but the whole process at White Oak Pastures, which is a beef operation. It's a Savory Institute hub, so they're following the regenerative Savory Institute practices. And they found that their beef operation was a net carbon sink. So again, it actually sequestered carbon from the atmosphere. It was not emitting carbon.
Now, you may be thinking, okay, fine, this lab meat is not as good for the environment as we thought, but at least it doesn't kill animals, right? Well, actually, in that delicious mix of soy-derived amino acids, vitamins, and minerals is some...
By the way, guys, now that I have you here, check out my merch stuff. This is the Eat the Slop shirt. Can you see it? Here, hold on. Critical Thought designed that for me. Thanks, Thought. But check it out. And I'll put it in the chat. All right, continue.
Something called fetal bovine serum, also known as the blood of freshly slaughtered cow fetuses. Because if you're gonna grow the best meat possible, you need the best, most powerful blood you can find. And if you're a company like Upside Foods, for example, who still uses this fetal bovine serum in their meat, you'll definitely want to keep that under wraps. And when people start asking questions, you just release articles saying that you developed an animal-free way to grow your meat. You see what we did there? Sure, you developed an animal-free way to grow your meat, but you never said anything about actually using the method you developed.
See, that's tricky. That's tricky because, yeah, should be false advertising, but they never said they were actually giving it to the consumer. They could just say, like he just said, exactly. We invented a way to do it, but we just don't want to. Probably because it's not feasible at a large scale, and also we don't care. We're not doing it to save the animals. We're doing it to fucking make you sick, and then make you pay us more money.
Which is why 2 years later, your website says you're still using the...
Or just straight up starve you out, right? This is a planet where you basically have to pay rent, or they're going to kill you. It's very difficult to just live out in the woods, especially in America. I mean, I know people do it, but that's what they want us to do. They want us to just basically not own shit, and if we stop paying them, we die.
Zero. Because you can pretty much do whatever you want behind closed doors. This is an experiment, and the media will always cover your tracks.
This is manufacturing chicken at scale without the animal, without the antibiotics, without all the issues.
This is the meat for people that really enjoy...
Yeah, Thumpire, she says fetal bovine serum sounds fucking gross. You think they're going to call it that, though? When the commercials go up, you think it's going to be like, ooh, try our new fetal bovine serum. It's great. No, they're going to use some, like, stupid, this is fair trade, organic, unnatural, spit in God's face meat. Right? Maybe not in so many words, but that's what it is. They're going to say it's a lot more eco-friendly and environmental and ethical than regular meat, and it's just not, because they're just fucking lying to you. Because they don't respect you. They lie to you because they don't respect you. And they want you dead.
Meat. So if you love chicken, if you love beef, this is for you.
And the end product is not...
And they get that guy on, and he looks like he's got some muscle mass and stuff, but I'm like, dude, he probably doesn't eat any of it. He probably just stays away from it himself. They're not gonna put like the effeminate guys, because everyone's super worried about becoming one of those feminine guys. I don't know. There is a connection between eating meat and masculinity, and I'm sure they're trying to play off of that.
Not plant-based chicken. It's not some different form. It is literally chicken.
It doesn't taste like a better version of chicken or a worse version of chicken. It just tastes like chicken.
Tastes like chicken.
Because it is. It has a nutritional composition of chicken because it is. It tastes like chicken because it is. What it doesn't have is all the greenhouse gas emissions.
Does it have a bone? Do they put a bone in it? Because that would be weird. Why put a bone? I mean, like, for chicken wings. Like, buffalo wings? I wouldn't eat that. I would not eat that. If somebody gave me, oh, these are fake meat buffalo wings, I'd be like, get that shit out of my face, and I'd smack the tray out of their hand. No!
Do not eat
I bet they use boobies to sell it too. I bet they use boobs. You know, they've been perfecting advertising for decades now. And they can control what you're going to buy on not like a fake level. They can very much make you buy something with tricks of psychology. You're looking at your phone all day, scrolling through TikTok or Reddit or whatever. They can brainwash you. They can program you to buy things. And it works so well. It's amazing how people just fall into trends. Just fall into them and be like, well, I'm super into it now because my phone told me it was cool. And then I think everyone else thinks it's cool. And I want to be cool, right? Because I don't want to be on the outside of the gang. People are programmable. It's clear.
Lab-grown meat. Upside Foods and Good Meat were just given approval by the FDA to sell their steaming lab-grown meat to a restaurant near you. And Eat Just is about to build a giant meat growing facility right here in the US. So, lab-grown meat is coming, whether you want it or not. But here's the thing. Getting it approved for human consumption is just the first step of their master plan.
The first thing they had to do was get lab-grown meat approved for human consumption. So,
wow, real difficult, especially since the FDA is in the pockets of these industries. Not specifically like those guys, the fake meats, but again, it's the pharmaceutical industries. Everybody's working together to screw us. And that sounds cynical, but it's true. It's true. Everyone is trying to get something from everybody else. And it's from greed. And, you know, because a lot of these people already have tons of money. And all they want to do is make more money. And then when they make all that money, they're all like, well, I don't want all these people on my planet. And so let's just give them cancer and make more money in the process.
that they've done. That first step they've done. Number two, what they're going to have to do is go back and make the argument.
Have I seen fake chicken wings being made with fake bones? Faux bones? No, I have not.
That lab-grown meat is so substantially similar to naturally raised meat that they shouldn't have to label it as lab-grown meat or...
Dirty. So they don't even want to label it as lab-grown meat. And that is just fucked up. There's no way. I mean, that might be the case. Where they're like, you know, you don't need to know it's fake because it's basically real. Don't I have the right to put what I want into my body? And they'll be like, no. Now take this shot. They'll stab it into me, right? They don't even give you the insert for those vaccines. You know that? The insert you pull on those vaccines, they're blank. So you don't have a right to know what's going into your body. They use the same reasoning for this meat. They're all like, you don't need to know. Eat it. You don't need to know what's going into your body because we're looking out for what's best for you. Fuck no. Absolutely not. What'd you send me here, Debo?
Bioengineered, or whatever term they're going to use.
There are three
so
parts.
Number one, get it approved for human.
Okay, we'll check it out. Here. Boop.
To the perfect vegan drumstick or wing. Today, let's talk about that.
See, it doesn't look quite right. It looks too fibery.
Made a lot of vegan chicken wings in the past, and it's one of my favorite things.
Is it false advertising though, couch surfing? Because it's molecularly identical to real meat, so it must be real meat. So that's how they could be like, oh, it is real meat. I don't need to label it any differently because it's exactly the same as meat. It's not.
Things is they always come out awesome. Some come out better than others, while some take a lot more work. Let's figure out in this video what it takes to make the perfect vegan drumstick. For this video, we're going to make two versions of drumsticks to see which version and what parts we liked the best. One of the most important parts of the drumstick, but not the only one, is the chicken.
Is that wood? Wood. It looks like a wooden spoon dipped in peanut butter
itself. There are loads of ways to make it, but let's try two of my favorites. Before we make the chicken, let's talk about the second most important part of the wing, the drumstick itself, or the bone. Now, I've used loads of different handles for my wings, but recently Faux Bones got a hold of me and asked if I wanted to try their vegan bones, and I clearly had to hide my address, so sorry about that weird, awkward way of holding this. I am blown away with how great these are to use. They're awesome. It made such a huge difference.
This is the first product of its kind. I mean, it's really, really awesome, and it's super unique. And I love for like the rib bones, how there's like different sizes. I'm gonna be really excited to try these in the future here. Having a more realistic bone does a few things for your chicken wings, from making it easier to like add the chicken substrate to the bone, and they're super durable. If you're using them at home, you can wash them and reuse them. I mean,
Ew. What? Ew. I'm not washing the bones to reuse on future chicken wings. That's insanity. I mean, I guess it could be like a spoon, right? You use spoons that other people have used, but it's washed. I don't know. That just doesn't. That weirds me
They're
out.
pretty awesome. So gang, head over to fauxbones.net, sign up via text message, and you're gonna get 20% off. You're gonna love these. You're gonna love them.
Seriously, imagine throwing one of these to your dog and he just looks at you like, what the fuck, dude? What did I do to you? This is wood. I don't want to eat this. I can go get a stick outside. No, the thing, it would be disappointment. My dog would be disappointed. Like, right? He wouldn't be angry with me. He would just be disappointed. And that would hurt so much worse.
Faux Bones, thanks for sponsoring today's video and making some pretty killer vegan bones. I mean, how neat is that? It's just cool. What a cool concept.
So we're going to be using these faux bones on both of our chicken drumsticks. So now let's make that chicken. So the very first chicken that's up is our jackfruit chicken. It's one of my favorite in chicken broth mix. And go ahead and pick them up and move them over and start wrapping your wing. We want the skins to be crispy.
Ooh,
Oh my God.
very good.
Mm-hmm. Good, right?
Mm-hmm.
These came out pretty good. We were pretty happy with them. So now let's try out the seitan with the soy skin. That was much crispier, as you can hear.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now the jackfruit and soy skin.
Jackfruit is pretty tasty, but no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. But this is what they're doing. They're brainwashing people into this kind of direction, right? Because it's exactly these type of people too. They want you to think that they're going to introduce it slowly because they don't want it all to happen at once because there's going to be too much pushback, but they're going to push it slowly over years until eventually that you can't even afford real meat because all the real meat ranches have shut down to make way for these fake meats and these soylent meats. That's going to be a dark world. It'll be a dark world. I mean, it's already pretty dark, but it'll get worse. There you go. That's the Sulk stream for you. We're not optimists, but we try to be.
Number two, go back and convince them, the government, the agencies, that it's so
Remember the cult. The cult is the cult about optimism. We're gonna
similar to natural meat that you don't have to label it as lab grown or bioengineered. Number three, the natural meat producers are then going to start labeling theirs as non-lab grown meat or naturally raised or actual meat or whatever term they choose. They'll start using that so that consumers can differentiate and start to, purchase what they want to purchase. So at that point, then the lab grown meat producers are going to have to go back again and say, look, you already said that, or you agreed that these were substantially similar, that there's not really any noticeable difference between the two. So it's not appropriate for the natural grown producers to differentiate their product from.
It's not appropriate for them to label their product as it is. That is insane. That's insane to me. So you're actually forcing other competitors to label their products in the way that you cannot label your product. That should be illegal. But you know what? They're going to get some judge that just so happens to side with these multi-trillion-dollar companies. And fucking big surprise there, right? And then it will be illegal. And you're not allowed to say non-lab grown meat. And then that's going to make it basically impossible for the natural meat growers to exist, to survive, especially with mounting regulations. Because that's what they do, too. They always increase regulation to make it harder on industries they don't want around. Like smoking, cigarettes, they really increased regulations on them a lot over the years. And just because they're trying to price them out. They're trying to control people's behavior through taxes, which is a crime. That is a crime. You're not supposed to levy taxes to influence people's behavior. You're only supposed to levy taxes for war and I don't know, something else. But they use taxes as a weapon against the people now. That's why there's so many damn taxes. Everywhere, everything gets taxed.
Ours. They're implying it's somehow better. They're implying it's somehow different. We've already had this discussion. You guys have already agreed that it's substantially similar. So therefore, it shouldn't be legal for them to label theirs as being not lab grown or naturally raised or whatever. And they'll make it illegal for the natural producers to differentiate their product with labeling. And then they have what they want, which is a situation where the consumers don't know which one they're getting. They can't choose. Everything's just muddled up together, and you buy meat and you take your chances and you hope you're getting what you want.
Some will buy into it, others will fight back.
There's going to be a problem with... So I think people that are older have had natural meat for so long that they're going to be able to tell the difference in, like, the taste and the consistency and the chew. And, it may take a while, but eventually the younger people won't know as much about the way natural meat tastes and stuff. And so they're going to just think this is natural meat until one day, like deep in the future, where natural meat is essentially outlawed. You know, somebody's going to get a steak from a special producer and be like, what is this? It's not in the proper packaging. And then taste it and be like, this is what natural meat was. And it's delicious. And it's delicious. And it's going to blow their fucking mind. It's going to be like, you know, on Star Trek, how they don't have alcohol, but they have a special additive they add to it to mimic alcohol. It's going to be like that. Because, you know, sometimes they drink real alcohol and they're like, this is real alcohol. It's gonna be like that.
Are ranchers like yourself talking about this new cell-cultured meat?
As I like to call it, fake meat. As president of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, 100% of the places I go, that's what producers
money,
want
you're
me.
not even fucking kidding. You're not even kidding. He said we should make a vegan bottled water company. We'd make millions. Dude, you're onto something. That bottled water company, Ethos, they basically just say they're really ethical, and like some of your purchase goes towards digging wells in Africa or something, and they like double the price and they make millions off of it. They make millions off of it, and they don't even donate. Like, you might get like a penny per bottle. But it's like $4 or $5 for a bottle of water. It's insane. And people buy that shit. People buy it. Insane. Jess's friend brought over a bag of rice that was woman-owned. And it was like a fancy bag of rice from like Whole Foods or some shit like that. And it was like fair trade and woman-owned. And it was $9 for 2 pounds of rice. I almost lost my temper because I'm used to buying 50-pound bags of rice from the store and just throwing it on my shoulder. It's rice. It's the same rice. You know, it's just normal rice. And it's like 15 or 20 bucks for 50 pounds of it. It drives me insane.
To talk about.
There's a law that was passed in Missouri, and that law stipulates that in order to call something meat, it has to come from an actual animal. Do you support that law?
I do. There'll be other states that I've been told about that will also make the same attempts to clarify what defines meat. We want to make sure that we have a level playing.
A lot of countries have laws regarding their food. Like in France, cheese has to be made a very specific way for it to be called cheese. So if it's not made in that exact way, like, you know, it's called cheese product. Like, you know, easy cheese, the stuff in a can, that's called cheese product. Ice cream has to be made a specific way, or it's called frozen dairy dessert. It's not ice cream, right? Beer in Germany has to be made a very specific way, or it's not called beer. So not doing the same for the meat producers would just be, I mean, that's clear deception.
Playing field on marketing and safety inspection.
Do you see cultivated meat as a threat to the cattle industry?
I see it as a threat if it's mislabeled.
So what should it be labeled?
Cultured meat, lab grown, something that just stands out and lets the consumer know what they're eating.
And the best way for you to fight back is to simply vote with your wallet. The entire big food system has spent decades demonizing.
But they don't want us to vote with our wallet because they want us not to know what we're buying. It's a bad thing when somebody takes steps to actively deceive you about what's in their product. That's a huge red flag. That is an enormous red flag, and people shouldn't look past that. And I don't know if, I mean, there's going to be a lot of pushback for that, but eventually the megacorps will probably win.
Recognizing red meat as not only terrible for the environment, but that it's also terrible for you. That somehow red meat is now magically a carcinogenic when we've been eating it for at least 2.6 million years. When in reality, beef in particular is one of the most nutrient-dense foods out there. But all the fake food they're advertising to your kids on television? No, those things are fine. We're gonna expose the systematic demonization of meat in a future video because the story is insane. So make sure you click subscribe. But when it comes to beef, don't buy into their propaganda. Stick to grass-fed. And when it comes to eggs, eggs are also extremely nutrient dense. But there are a ton of different labels out there to choose from. Organic, cage-free, free-range, pasture-range, non-GMO, no added hormones. So which one do you pick? Well, we go over exactly what all these...
Teddy Mason says, vote with your wallet and then watch them buy up all the competition so you can't buy from someone other than them anyway, because they're the parent company of everything. Precisely. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to buy up all the competition, and they're just going to jack up the prices and then say they weren't making a profit and then shut down those factories. That's what they're going to do because they don't want you. They want you under complete control, and the freedom to choose what you eat is like the most basic freedom a human has. That's like at your core. If they take that away from you, you have nothing left. But that's what they're trying to do.
These labels mean and the gold standard to eat in our latest newsletter that you can get for free by scrolling down and clicking the link below. It takes less than 15 seconds. The Evil Food Insiders newsletter is where we get to alert you on breaking news when it comes to our food supply straight into your inbox, along with important knowledge like this that might not warrant a full documentary. For example, Evil Food Insiders were the first to learn about lab-grown meat a few weeks back, before we were able to make this documentary on it. The feedback we've been getting on this newsletter has been way better than we expected, and you can be a part of it.
All right, it's over. Here, there was another one. Here it is. Let's see what these guys have to say.
Grown chicken nuggets.
Chicken grown in a lab.
Why are people making it?
Climate change.
It's better for the environment.
The environment.
Lab meat is not going to save the planet or the animals. So then why has $3 billion been invested into lab meat startups? Well, to understand the full picture, we'll first have to take a look at the science of why scaling lab meat is not practical at all. Second, we'll look at why no one will be able to afford it. Third, why it could be worse for the environment. And finally, whether the public and investors are being misled by unrealistically optimistic stories.
This meat, it's incredibly
misleading investors? I've never heard of that happening before.
Sustainable, but we figured out a way to
this whole
solve it.
FTX thing that just happened with the...
And we're gonna have to do it if we want to continue living on this planet.
So either we accept this.
Thumpire says the EU just approved digital IDs and wallets for all. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. We knew that was coming down the line. It's just a matter of time before they put the chip in your hand. But honestly, they probably don't even have to do that. They have biometric sensors that can easily tell your fingerprint or the veins in your palm or your retina, and then that will just be your chip, right? They'll just scan your retina, and that's how you pay for things. That's how you get onto an airplane. They don't need an RFID chip in your body. They can just use your body, right? And then That's why they have all these things on. Don't give your DNA to one of those 23andMe or any of those shits, because they're going to use it against you. They're going to use it against you. And that's one of the ways they're going to use it.
Or we all become vegetarian.
It's better for the world.
At first, I was really optimistic about lab meat.
Yeah. Mr. Footpig says the vax was the chip. I've heard that. And the chip is supposed to be the number of the beast, right? It's either in your right hand or in your forehead. Most of the shots were given in the left arm, but it was all connected and it like goes to your right hand. I've heard about that. Hey, Donatello Jello.
It made so much sense. Growing just a steak instead of a whole cow seemed to be way more efficient. But then I started looking into it, and it made less and less sense. To take cells from a cow or chicken and grow them quickly, they need to be put in a very expensive custom-made bioreactor, filled with a specially formulated liquid made with purified water, growth factors, purified amino acids, glucose, and salts. A cow just needs...
Vampire. They have a great many vectors to come at you, and they're just... It's almost hopeless. It's like this far from hopeless, but it's not hopeless, right? We just have a big mess to clean up. There's a lot of things that need to change, and it's going to get messy. It's going to get messy the next, I don't know, over the next 10 years or something like that. It's going to be a weird time. It's going to be a weird time, and we'll just see what happens.
It's rainwater and grass. The facility and the bioreactor need to be totally sterile because a tiny amount of bacteria or virus could ruin the whole batch, wasting tons of money. A cow has an immune system, so it can just lay in the dirty grass outside. A huge challenge to growing cells quickly inside of a bioreactor is developing ways to efficiently deliver oxygen and nutrients to each cell, while removing waste products like ammonia, lactate, and CO2. A cow, on the other hand, handles all this really easily with lungs, blood vessels, and its liver. There's a lot more to this picture, but the point is it's very expensive to try and do what a cow, chicken, or pig does.
In a Singapore restaurant, there's a recent addition to the menu. This is chicken, but not as we know it.
The lab meat company Eat Just was actually selling lab-grown chicken nuggets straight to consumers in Singapore. But those cost upwards of $50 each to make. For that same price...
I'm sorry? How much for a chicken nugget? $50. $50 for a chicken nugget? Damn. I mean, I'm sure the price is going to drop on those, though.
About 1,500 nuggets could be made from conventional chicken meat. The most common justification for lab meat is that we need it to prevent conventional meat from destroying the planet.
And what is the problem that we try to solve by cultivated meat?
So that we have a planet to inhabit.
President Biden signed an executive order this year requiring federal agencies to support cultivating alternative food sources.
Ezra Klein, founder of the hugely popular news media company Vox, wrote an article arguing that...
Ezra Klein, founder? No, that was Gavin McInnes, wasn't it?
We need government funding into plant-based protein and lab meat to save the planet from climate change.
And Vox sucks now. I mean, Vox just sucks.
Need government
just weird
support
for
to
weird
get there.
sake.
But you're getting all these people like pushing the government to fund this.
As soon as you show me it's better for the environment and there's like positive impacts, let's fund it. It's fine. But
You psychopath. You're a psychopath, right? You can't just say, oh, it's good for the environment, so let's fund it. Because you have to think about human impact. You have to think about, like, people's lives and stuff. You can't just... People like this are dangerous, you know? People are like this who are just so on the bandwagon that they'll actually hurt people and think they're doing good. People like this are dangerous.
I do not see that.
On the other hand, Dr. Derek Reisner points out in his PhD dissertation that despite all the hype and investment that has already been poured into lab meat, a detailed assessment of whether lab meat is actually better for the environment has not been properly done.
We're going to need all hands on deck
to make these the global meat industry.
One report commissioned by the Good Food Institute, GFI, a nonprofit which heavily promotes and supports the lab meat.
Here, let's go over here, and this is about BlackRock.
Have teetered on the edge of collapse.
And I feel like this is involved. This is related because all these major companies are basically owned by one company, and that's BlackRock. There's also like Vanguard, but they're the ones who are controlling the food supply.
Some have failed. As uncertainty has grown, many banks have restricted lending. Credit markets have frozen, and families and businesses have found it harder to borrow money. We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis, and the federal government is responding with decisive action. So I propose that the federal government reduce the risk posed by these troubled assets and supply urgently needed money so banks and other financial institutions can avoid collapse and resume lending. This rescue effort is not aimed at preserving any individual.
Look at the stack of Red Bulls behind these guys.
Company or industry. It is aimed at preserving America's overall economy.
In January issue, the bailout was far bigger than the Federal Reserve let the public or even members of Congress know at the time.
During the 2008 meltdown, when the government...
Forrest Mommy says, when I say they control everything, I mean these assholes and not the Jays. Yeah, I mean, yes.
And bailed out too big to fail giants like Bear Stearns, AIG, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Who did they hire to analyze and clean up the mess? Another giant financial firm by the name of BlackRock, led by a very well-connected billionaire by the name of Larry Fink. BlackRock was awarded these key government contracts to help with the meltdown with no competitive bidding while being enveloped in secrecy. Basically, Larry Fink was hired to be the manager of Washington's bailout of Wall Street, even though BlackRock is one of the biggest shareholders in the same banks they were helping to get bailed out, making Larry Fink the most powerful man in the post-bailout economy. Fast forward to the 2020 pandemic.
Rick, quick question for you, sir.
All
We're
right.
just getting word from the Federal Reserve, and this might be boosting the markets even more this afternoon. They are talking about the details of their corporate bond purchases.
The Fed making history today, and for the first time ever, began buying corporate debt ETFs. The unprecedented move driving an explosion in the corporate debt market.
We are committed to using our full range of tools to support the economy and to help assure that the recovery from this difficult period will be as robust as possible.
But again, something they planned from the get-go, right? They planned the whole. They knew that bubble was coming, and they kept pumping it until it popped, and then they just basically took control after that. This was all their plan, and obviously so was COVID, 9/11. We've all been controlled for decades, and like it's not just our generation. The generation before us too. This is it's all planned.
And as I mentioned, the Fed 2 weeks
and
ago.
now they're gonna make us eat fake steaks and like non-chickens and stuff, and give us cancer and starve us to death.
Began buying individual corporate bonds, and we just got granular detail about what types of purchases it made yesterday.
And who did the money printer of the US, the Federal Reserve?
Better yet, Forrest Mommy, why don't they let us know who owns the Fed? Who is like the shareholders of the Federal Reserve? Right? It's not federal, but it's privately owned. Who are those people?
Reserve hired to manage their scheme to buy corporate bonds. Basically, they were bailing out corporations that had too much debt to withstand the pandemic. You guessed it, they went right back to BlackRock. Even though, again, the same corporations BlackRock was helping to bail out were the same corporations that they own some of the biggest stakes in.
Keep in mind, though, these are just the top 10 holdings. The whole list, which the Fed has published on the New York Fed website, includes 794 companies. So yes, these are just the top 10 by holdings, but there are hundreds of other companies that could be part of the Fed's portfolio as well.
Larry
Tentacles. Those are tentacles. And they reach out into every area of society, and they have control of all these disparate companies.
Fink was the most powerful man in the post-bailout economy, and now he's arguably one of the most powerful men in the post-pandemic economy as well. And yet, despite all his considerable power, the general public has practically never heard of Larry Fink, with BlackRock barely coming into the public eye during the recent claims that they were buying up single-family homes. That's because Larry is smart. He's intentionally kept it that way. He spent the last 33 years building.
And this is why house prices are insane too, because BlackRock's basically buying entire neighborhoods up and then just keeping them to rent them out, because that's just more profitable than people owning their own home. When people own their own home, that's how they build wealth, right? That's like the main way of building wealth. But if they control all the homes and don't put them up for sale, make lumber extremely expensive, and then make it difficult to build new homes through bureaucratic red tape, then they could just make you pay rent, not own anything until you die. And if you step out of line, they'll kill you. I mean, not with a bullet, but just kicking you out of your house, making so you can't, rent a car, so you can't sell stuff. Yeah, they'll starve you to death.
Building BlackRock into the biggest asset manager in the world, with over $9 trillion under their management. Not billion, trillion with a T. Today, BlackRock's clients include the retirement accounts of average everyday people in the form of pension funds. They also have sovereign wealth funds as their clients, other central banks, college endowments, Fortune 500 companies, and millions of individual investors. They're one of the top shareholders of many of the biggest publicly traded companies like Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, and even other major banks like Wells Fargo and Chase. And to put their $9 trillion into...
For a moment, you said it wrong. You will own nothing and be happy.
Perspective,
you gotta say it like Klaus Schwab.
300 largest pension funds in the world only hold a collective $6 trillion. Vanguard, the behemoth behind mutual funds and ETFs, trails behind BlackRock with only $7.1 trillion under management. And if you put the big three asset management firms together, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, they control a collective $15 trillion, roughly equivalent to nearly 70% of the US's GDP. And Larry Fink has done all of this largely in the shadows, with just a few occasional interviews and appearances on CNBC. He's like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain, as William Cohen puts it, a former investment banker and author of House of Cards, an account of the Bear Stearns collapse. This is BlackRock, what some call the most influential financial institution in the world's largest shadow bank, and perhaps the company that owns the world. When Larry Fink was asked by Bloomberg if it's true that he's the most powerful man in finance, the man responsible for $9 trillion tried to convince you otherwise. That quote, "I don't think of myself as powerful," end quote. Is that true?
Because you don't have to, because you're that powerful. You have $9 trillion. I mean, think about the amount of... Elon Musk is worth not $1 trillion, and he's assumed to be the richest man in the world. But this guy has more money than him. By a lot. By a hell of a lot. Right? Just because it's not in his personal bank account doesn't mean he doesn't get to say exactly what happens to it.
Does BlackRock own the world? Well, it's a little bit complicated.
We live in a Truman Show and they run it? Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Only it's not nice like the Truman Show. The Truman Show, he lived a good life. They just want us in, a factory with, a suicide nets and a water ball that you drink out of.
BlackRock boasts some impressive stats. In 2010, they were called the most influential financial institution in the world. And in 2014, they had $4 trillion under management, making them the world's biggest asset manager. For comparison, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China only had $3 trillion at that time. And as I just mentioned, their assets have doubled to more than $9 trillion over the past 7 years. It seems BlackRock has a hand in nearly everything these days. They're a top shareholder in some of the world's biggest publicly traded companies, a top shareholder of banks like Deutsche Bank at 4.81%. In 2020, they were approved by the Chinese government to set up a mutual fund in China, making BlackRock the first foreign asset manager to be greenlighted for this. They also have shares in companies all over Europe, including industries like energy, oil and gas, transportation, food, and of course finance. And here's the kicker. BlackRock has what's called circular ownership, where they own shares in companies that own shares in BlackRock. Definitely not a conflict of interest. So they're literally
What? They own shares in a company that owns shares in the... So they just own themselves. That's just... Seems like extra steps.
Everywhere. Because of their staggering size and power and the fact that they largely operate out of sight, BlackRock has been called the world's largest shadow bank. The question is, what makes someone build something this big? Larry Fink is known as the guy who always wanted more than he had. Friends have called him obsessive, paranoid about maintaining...
Yeah, between them and that, they own everything. It's just basically... And these three places, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, are owned by like an even smaller group of individuals. And then that group is managed by one guy, right? And it's probably not Larry Fink. It's most likely Satan, but there's probably somebody below Satan that actually has a name. I would love to know that man's name. Could it be Rothschild? Could be. I don't know. It's definitely not anybody in the royal family. But it's somebody. It's somebody.
Control?
Most likely Rothschild. But I don't know.
He's been regarded as someone who knows the markets inside and out and understands business backwards and forwards. But it took him a massive $100 million loss to get to this point. Larry majored in political science at UCLA and got his start on Wall Street at age 23. Having that edge in politics would later play a crucial role in him being the de facto middleman between Washington and Wall Street. He received offers from some of the top investment banks.
Oh yeah, Forrest Mommy. And they totally aren't pedophiles. They're totally not pedophiles. It's not like they have all these people under control because they film them having sex with like 12-year-olds. Yeah, there's no way that they're all pedophiles.
But decided on First Boston, where he worked on structuring and trading bonds, which sounds incredibly interesting.
By the way, who was on that Jeffrey Epstein list? Did we find that out? I don't think we ever found that out.
He rose up the ranks quickly, and within a decade,
it's just one guy died, and then that was the end of it. That was the complete fucking end of it, right? And oh, he killed himself. He killed himself, right? And the guards that were supposed to be watching him just happened to retire immediately after that and buy $1 million homes. Weird. That's a coincidence. They happened to win the lottery or something like that. That's super strange.
Became somewhat of a legend on Wall Street by helping develop the debt securitization market, where loans like car loans, credit card loans, mortgages would be bundled together, sliced into pieces, and sold to other investors. If this sounds familiar, it's because these are the same mortgage-backed securities that led to the 2008 meltdown. But before that happened, this securitization of debt was considered really innovative, and it transformed the face of finance. All of a sudden, if you're a giant bank or pension fund or whatever that wants to—
Obedience says, do you think Klaus has magic murder bag? He's probably has some sort of magic. I mean, it's Satan's magic, for sure. He probably sold his firstborn or himself. I don't know. There's something not totally above board going on with that. His dad was a Nazi too.
Invest in the housing market, you can now invest in a mortgage-backed security made up of thousands of hopefully safe loans. Larry Fink created one of the main tools that led to the meltdown, and he was also the one the US Treasury hired to clean it up. His interest in policy and strategic wizardry helped him gain a reputation as a true investment mastermind, and for that he was rewarded. Larry was making bank and received a ton of accolades.
Yeah, and a few months after all of that went down, we all got locked in our homes for a while. You know, just so we wouldn't be out on the street like looking around. You know, there's no way Epstein's dead. There's no way.
At just 31, he became First Boston's youngest managing director in history. Many even thought he would go to run the firm someday. In total, he helped add about $1 billion in assets to First Boston.
I know, Forrest Mommy, because that's how they get it. That's how they get up to those upper echelons. They start low, right? And then as they climb the ranks, they give them a little bit more of a weirder ritual to do. And it probably involves child sacrifice, you know, incest or something like that. And then that gets filmed and then it's used for blackmail. There's a whole system worked out. And we just don't know about it. We're just in the dark. And I feel like they don't even give a shit about hiding it anymore. Because, you know, whenever a conspiracy theory comes out, and it like turns out it's true, they're all like, they just shrug their fucking shoulders and they're like, well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Yeah, we did it. What are you gonna do? And damn, they're right. What are we gonna do? Because we just get pushed around for decades and we've done nothing. The revolution was over a 2% tax on a non-necessity. And now we're getting with 40% taxes and they're taxing everything they can possibly get. Yeah, we just let them push our shit around.
Austin's bottom line. But then, the rising star came crashing down, shortly after one of his biggest wins.
Of course, Mommy, even if you don't believe in Satan, they do, and they doing weird-ass shit, and it's definitely doing stuff. Yeah. Yes. There is some sort of weird devil magic that exists in the world. I firmly believe that. Because I used to not. But, like, as I've gotten older and as I've seen shit, I'm like, no way. There's no way there's not some, like, deep, satanic, black magic going on in this world.
Larry lost $100 million for his company. A missed call on his hand resulted in trades being wiped out, as well as the hedges designed to offset those losses being wiped out. And overnight, Larry went from a hero to a toxic asset that should be avoided at all times. He was ostracized.
Priz, they've been hiding it less and less on purpose the closer we get. Yeah, and they're gonna, like, drop some, like, huge bomb on us to, like, next year and say there's aliens here and we all have to do exactly what the government says because we're at war with the aliens or some stupid bullshit like that. You know it's gonna be. And, yeah, that's Project Bluebeam. If you don't know about Project Bluebeam, look it up. You can't look it up on YouTube, though. Weird that you can't look up Project Bluebeam on YouTube, but you can look it up on Rumble just fine. So many weird things happening today.
His reputation went up in flames, and his colleagues wanted nothing to do with him. He was forced out of the company he spent 12 years making around $1 billion for. While a catastrophe like this might mark the end for many people, that wasn't the case with Larry. Instead, he used it as ammunition, vowing to never find himself in a position where he didn't understand the risk he was taking.
I think it could be global gypsies, Obedient. It could be the gypsy curse, and the guy at the top is just like some fat gyppo, and he's just stealing people's watches.
Again. And in 1988, he was 35 and hell-bent on rebooting his career. So Larry
Oh shit, that third temple is what scares me. Priz, are they planning to build the third temple in 2030? Because that means the Dome of the Rock, the mosque that's on it now, has to be gone. So what's going to happen to that Dome of the Rock? Is it going to be some earthquake that they definitely know how to create? Probably. Maybe it'll be like, oh, they're going to say Hamas hit their own mosque on accident. I don't know. They could literally say anything. They could literally say anything, and we just have to believe them. We don't have to believe them, but they're going to keep repeating it until it's the truth for them. And then they'll rebuild that stupid temple, and then that's when the whole Satan thing comes back. It'll be fun. It'll be a blast, right?
Founded the Blackstone Group, along with now billionaire investor Steven Schwartzman. They started off with a $5 million line of credit. Fast forward to 1993, and they were crushing it with $20 billion under management. But in what some would call a power struggle between Fink and Schwartzman, where two super strong personalities collided, the two parted ways and Larry broke off to found BlackRock, channeling all his pain and trauma into growing the firm at a staggering rate. By 1999, it went public for $375 million. By 2004, it merged with Merrill Lynch, adding $500 billion to BlackRock's assets. And today, it's at $9 trillion. While the size of BlackRock is impressive, what really sets them apart is their software platform called Aladdin, basically a supercomputer they use for their clients.
Supercomputer? So are these supercomputers, like, these quantum computers, are they some sort of devil black magic? Because that would be interesting. If that's like, they're not doing computing, they're just summoning. That's what they are. They're summoning machines. And they open a portal with another realm that allows demons and demon ideas to come into our realm. And that's what they're going to use it for. I don't know. It's a theory.
Aladdin is a network of 5,000 computers BlackRock uses to monitor millions of trades and analyze their clients' portfolios 24 hours a day to perform risk analysis. Aladdin is so widespread today that it's basically the central nervous system for many of the largest players in the investment management industry. And for them to be able to offer the service, they have to be granted access to sensitive data from banks, insurance companies, pension funds, and other important institutions all over the world.
Okay, people are saying interesting things. Thumpire says localized tornado, earthquake, Flood on that site. Blame it on climate change. Very possible. That's very possible. Footbig said, I saw where Trump will declared the king of Israel. They minted coins with him and an ancient king with the temple on the other side already. Okay. I'd like to see one of those coins. Obedient says, and the temple is entirely built and just waiting for assembly. Yeah, I believe that too. I believe they have all the materials waiting in some warehouse somewhere, and, you know, they have it all planned out. They have it all planned out. They're going to build that temple, and then probably after a catastrophic war, and then we're all going to get, I don't know what's going to happen.
This high-end computer farm literally goes over every possible scenario and pinpoints anything that could possibly go wrong, allowing their clients to make the best investment decisions. And it's through Aladdin that BlackRock actually oversees more like $21 trillion worth of assets instead of just $9 trillion. And that's just from a third of Aladdin's 240 clients. Which means
the CERN Collider, that has so many interesting conspiracies about it. I'll dive into that one day, and we'll talk about it, and because it's got a lot going on, the CERN Collider, and, you know, they say there's satanic rituals that happen, and then there's like the Shiva statue there, which is the god of destruction, and all types of weird shit. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna hop off because my throat is hurting me because I'm getting sick or something like that, but I'll be back tomorrow. Regardless of how sick I am. And you'll see me on Daywave. And I hope you guys have a great evening. I appreciate everyone coming tonight. A lot of people weren't here last night, and I'm glad people are here tonight to talk about the weird shit we talk about on the Sulk stream. So, until tomorrow, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves. Drink water. Try not to get sick. Speaking of awesome shirts, I would like to show you our very own Sulk line of sweet shirts made by certain people in our chat. We have the potato shirt, the delete yourself bundle of 6, the Sulkster, the classic Sulkster, the Sulkamania, KSW, the Eat the Slop, which I think was designed by our own Critical Thought. I'm not a sex, or it's not a sex cult, which is right here. That's a really good one. MK Sulkstra. So go on down to the Incredible Sulk store on Bonfire and pick up a shirt, and you're going to look great.